We are on the home stretch of the Richard Kane Ferguson Kickstarter campaign, with only a few days remaining. We are fast approaching the $230,000 mark, and once we unlock that tier, people will be able to art direct Richard Kane Ferguson on the next playmat and print design. Backers can leave their suggestions and then vote for the best design. Not to mention incredible giveaways like the 3 Commander Masters Artist Proof sets that were given away at the $200,000 mark. So be sure to sign up using my affiliate link down below. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's patron shoutout goes to Adam. Thanks Adam for supporting me through Patreon. In today's game we've got Max, Ian, and Mika joining me, with Max testing out his Mazzy deck more. He keeps Sanctum Weaver, Forest, Sunpetal Grove, Disrupt Decorum, Vow of Duty, Ordeal of Heliod, and a Kenrith Transformation. Ian is out for blood with Khârn, keeping Tyrant Sanctum, 2 Mountains, Soul Ring, Fire Diamond, Champion's Helm, and Agitator Ant. Mika is playing as Anje Falkenrath, and he's keeping Court of Ambition, Terramorphic Expanse, Stormworld, 2 Swamps, Apocalypse, and Obnixilis the Adversary. Last but not least, I've built the newly released Felix 5 boots, and I'm keeping the Black Gate, Lavispur Boots, Windswept Heath, Toski Bearer of Secrets, Notion Thief, Grim Hireling, and Rampant Growth. Max wins the die roll and starts us off. Before we get into today's game, I want to talk about the sponsors for my channel. Card Conduit is the best way to sell your unused Magic cards. Whether you've got a box of unsorted bulk, or a complete and alphabetized set, there's a great option for everyone. With a payout averaging 19% better than using any one buy list, and that's after fees are applied, you can rest assured you'll get the best bang for your buck. If you're a skeptic like me, their easy customer service and detailed reports make the whole interaction transparent and safe. And if you use the affiliate link in the description below, or the promo code MTGMUDSTA, you'll save 10% off their fees. And 401 Games, Canada's one-stop shop for trading cards, board games, and hobby supplies. Not to mention an easy-to-use and great online buy list. And if you use the promo code MTGMUDSTA, your first purchase of MTG sealed and singles will be 5% off. And Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest deck. So be sure to use the code MUDSTA or the affiliate link down below to save 5% on your next order. He draws, plays a forest, and casts Unbridled Growth onto it. He passes after that. Ian's got an explosive turn, playing a mountain and casting Soul Ring, and then tapping the Soul Ring for a tap Fire Diamond. For my turn, I just play a tap Black Gate. Mika plays Terramorphic Expanse and passes. Max draws and plays a Sunpetal Grove. He then casts Sanctum Weaver and passes back to Ian. Ian's got a mountain for turn, and is able to cast a turn 2 Khârn, and passes to me after that. I drop a Windswept Heath, and crack it, losing 1 for a forest. I shortcut, casting Farseek while I'm at it, and go to find a Watery Grave at the same time. Mika's turn has him playing a swamp, and casting an old card, Stormworld, and passing. Maximus plays a Rootbound Crag, and casts Vow of Duty onto his Sanctum Weaver, and then goes to combat. He swings the Weaver at Mika, dealing 2, and afterwards casts an Acquired Mutation on Khârn and passes. Ian plays a Tyrant Sanctum for his land, and then casts Rogue's Gloves. He moves him onto Khârn and goes to combat. Ian swings Khârn at me, and I get 2 rad counters, and I then take 7 commander damage. Mika decides to also cycle Ash Barrens, and after that, Ian passes. I draw, and in my main phase, mill 2, hitting 1 non-land card and losing 1 life and a rad counter. I play Lavispur Boots, and then Rampant Growth to continue ramping. I pass while searching for a basic. Mika draws and plays a Swamp. He then casts his commander Anje Falkenrath and passes. Maximus takes 1 from the Stormworld and then draws for turn. He plays a Plains, and then brings up Mazzy. He swings the Sanctum Weaver at Ian, and Ian takes the 4. After combat, Max then throws Ordeal of Heliod onto Khârn and passes turn. Ian draws and casts Bestial Fury on Khârn, and then plays out a Brass Squire. Going to combat, Khârn goes at Mika, who gets 2 rad counters and then takes 10. Ian then passes after that. I draw, mill 1 in my main phase, hitting a non-land and lose my last rad counter and lose 1 life. I play a Hinterland Harbor, and then cast Toski and pass to Mika. Mika draws and mills his 2 to the rad counters, hitting 1 non-land card, losing 1 and 1 rad counter. He just plays a mountain after that, and passes. Maximus loses 2 to Stormworld, and then draws for turn. He sacrifices Unbridled Growth to draw a card, and instead of it going to his graveyard, gets to exile it thanks to Mazzy. He follows up by casting Vow of Lightning onto Toski, and Max then recasts the Unbridled Growth on his forest again. Max then swings the Sanctum Weaver at Ian, dealing 4, and in his post-combat main phase, he's able to tap it to cast Spider Umbra on the Brass Squire. After that, Maximus passes. Ian's turn has him casting Champion's Helm and equips it onto Khârn. Mika responds by casting Terminate on Khârn to at least stop it from growing out of control. With Khârn dying, Max gets to exile his 2 auras thanks to Mazzy. Before leaving his turn though, Ian responds with a Retaliatory Lightning Bolt and targets Anje Falkenrath. Mika activates his commander, Rummaging, and then she dies. With nothing else, Ian passes. I draw and play a Verdant Catacombs, cracking it and losing 1, and then lose 2 more for an untapped Overgrown Tomb. I then cast my commander, Felix 5 Boots, and move 1 pair of boots onto him with the Lavisper Boots. I then swing Toski at Mika, and Felix goes at Max, and neither of them block. I then get to draw 4 thanks to Toski's double triggers, and after that, I pass. Mika draws and mills 1 in his main phase, hitting it on land and losing his last rad counter. He then plays a swamp for turn, and once that's done, escapes Khârn from his graveyard. With the ability on the stack, Maximus sacrifices the Unbridled Growth. Khârn then comes in, and Max and I pitch lands so we lose 3, while Ian pitches a non-land. With nothing else, Mika passes. Max takes 2 from Stormworld and draws. He then casts Kenra's Transformation onto Khârn, drawing a card from it, and then casts Unbridled Growth from exile onto his forest yet again. Going to combat, he swings the Sanctum Weaver at Ian, and Mazzy goes at Mika. Neither of them block, and both take the hit. In his second main phase, Max then taps the Sanctum Weaver to cast Disrupt Decorum. He then uses the leftover mana to help cast Ordeal of Heliod, and puts it onto Khârn, and then passes to Ian. Ian takes 1 from Stormworld this time, and draws for turn. He plays a mountain, and then recasts Khârn. He then taps the Brass Squire to move the Champion's Helm onto him, and after that, Ian passes. My turn has me playing an Urborg, and I then get a little bit crazy, casting Grazilax and then a Grim Hireling. I move the Lavisper Boots onto the Hireling, and go to combat. I swing Toski and Felix at Ian, and the Grim Hireling at Max. Ian blocks Toski with Khârn and takes 7 total, and with Khârn taking damage, Ian draws 2 and donates them to Mika. The rest of my creatures then connect, which has me drawing 8 cards and making a bunch of treasures. With nothing else, but with nothing really good to play, I then pass to Mika. Mika draws and plays a swamp. He goes to combat and swings Khârn, aka the Elk, at me for 5, and Khârn goes at Max. Neither of us block and we both take our hits. In his post-combat main phase, Mika casts Viconia, and once she's out, plays Ob Nixilis the Adversary, and chooses to sacrifice Khârn to the Casualty ability. I countered the original spell, not the copy, with Stubborn Denial, but the copy still enters with 5 loyalty counters. Mika then downticks Ob Nixilis, making a Devil token and passing. Maximus takes 1 to Stormworld, draws, and plays a forest. He then casts Enchantress's Presence, and sacrifices and recasts Unbridled Growth, drawing from it being sacrificed, and then drawing from it being recast. Max then taps the Sanctum Weaver, and casts Sage's Reverie, and targets Mazzy with it. I'm thankfully able to stop it with an Offer You Can't Refuse. Maximus in response sacrifices the Unbridled Growth, drawing a card, but can't find an answer, and the Reverie gets countered. Max does get 2 treasures at least, and he then casts Shram. Once he's out, he casts Redemption Arc and enchants Grasslax onto it, drawing 2 cards, one from Stram and one from the Presence. He then wraps things up by casting Unbridled Growth once more, drawing 2 more, and then passing to Ian. Ian draws and plays a Mountain. He's decided to choose Violence, and he plays a Descent into Avernus, and then Pyrohemia, passing to me after that. I draw and play a Swamp. I cast Soul Ring, and then Sword of Body and Mind. And then follow up with a Strixhaven Stadium. I equip this sword onto Felix, and go to combat. I swing Tusky and Grasslax at Mika, and the Hireling and Felix go at Ian. Ian blocks the Grim Hireling with the Brass Squire, and before moving to damage, activates it to put Champion's Helm onto it with its own ability. It takes out the Hireling, but everything else connects, and once more, I get to draw 8 cards and make more treasures. Ian also mills 20 cards from my sword trigger, and I make 2 2/2 wolf tokens, plus put 6 counters onto Strixhaven Stadium. In my post-combat main phase, I cast Nature's Lore, going to find a breeding pool, and then cast Archmage's Newt, and pass turn. Mika takes 1 to Stormworld on his upkeep, and then draws for turn. He plays a Swamp, and goes to combat, swinging the Elk Corax at me. I declare no blocks, and just take the hit. Mika then upticks Obnixilis, and we all decide to just take the 2. Once that's done, he recasts his commander, and passes. Maximus draws and casts Kithkin Armor on Mazzy. And with Max's draw triggers on the stack, I flash in Notion Thief. The Notion Thief then resolves, but we have another round of priority, and Ian decides I've got enough advantage, activating Pyrohemia to deal 1 to every creature and every player, and kills it. This also takes out Mika's Devil, which on death, gets to deal 1 damage, and he uses it to take out my Newt. Max then plays out Carapace on Sram, drawing 2 more cards, and then he then goes to combat. He swings Mazzy and Sram at me, and I block 4 damage with my Wolves, but still drop to 1. After combat, Max then casts a Chromatic Lantern, and once that's out, plays a Tap Jungle Shrine. He then plays an Endless Worm. He also decides to cast Danitha, and then sacrifices the Unbridled Growth, drawing a card. He then recasts it from exile, drawing 2 more, and he passes to Ian after that. Ian's upkeep has the Descent into Avernus trigger, which deals 2 to everyone and makes them 2 treasures, and I get taken out. He then takes 2 from Stormworld, which we mark down after since I forget, and he draws and plays a Mountain. He then dumps 7 mana into Pyrohemia. Max responds by casting Inventory Management to reorganize his auras and equipments, and puts the Spider Umbra onto the Sanctum Weaver, and Ordeal of Heliod onto the Endless Worm. With the 3rd activation on the stack, Mika activates his commander, discarding a Bloodhall Priest to draw, and gets to untap Anje. He then activates her again, rummaging again, and this time discards Bloodchief Ascension, and then Anje dies. With the 4th activation on the stack, Max sacrifices the Carapace to regenerate Sram, and sacrifices Kithkin Armor to save Mazzy from 1 activation. The rest of the triggers then resolve, and the only survivors are the Sanctum Weaver and the Endless Worm. Ian then casts a Baloth Baratil, and passes to Mika. Mika takes 1 to Stormworld on his upkeep, and draws. He uptips Obnixilis, dealing 2 to each opponent, which takes out Ian. He then floats 9 mana, and casts Apocalypse. He discards his hand, and everyone exiles all permanents. He then uses the remaining 4 mana to help escape Coraxa. With Coraxa coming in, Maximus has to discard a card, pitching a land, and he dies, with Mika winning the game. Game review time. This game was 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 7 seconds, and frankly, a lot of it was that last turn responding to Pyrohemia. It's a very strong card, especially in Khârn, but my goodness does it slow things down when there's so many triggers and abilities that go on the stack. I think Ian did a good job using it to prevent me with that Notion Thief, since I was drawing so many cards, and getting even more probably wasn't the right move. Otherwise, I think he only was able to give Khârn away once, so he only really drew 2 cards from his commander. Speaking of commanders that draw cards, Felix 5 Boots is Insane. I know doubling effects is very powerful, but the fact that I also want to attack while doing it is just crazy. It really speeds up the game, and that Grim Hireling and Toski were getting me so much value from just one creature connecting even. Max's Mazzy deck is kind of growing on me, as he's running a lot of goat effects and basically forcing other people to attack, and really using Mazzy's ability to pump other people's creatures by +2/+0 and trample. I also thought Mika's win was pretty spicy, as even if people hadn't die-dobbed Nixilis, having no boards but having a Crox on the field was probably a game-ending play anyway. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.